weren't in the call.
Okay, so here we go. I'm going back to chess.com, and today we're looking at the top chess player, one of the top chess players in the world. At his time, he was the best chess player, and today we're looking at Wilhelm Steinitz. His full name was Wilhelm Steinitz, no middle name, and he was born on May 14, 1836, and he lived to a ripe old age of 64, which wasn't bad in 1900. Died on August 12. He was actually born in Prague, in the Kingdom of Bohemia, and he was with the Chess Federation of Austria. Now, Wilhelm Steinitz was an Austrian master and the first official world chess champion. He held the title from 1886 to 1894 after dominating the chess scene for decades before. He was undefeated in match play for over 30 years, from 1862 to 1894. In fact, in 1859 to 61, bold attacking performances in the Vienna City Championships earned him the nickname Austrian Morphy. And if you don't know Morphy, we're referring to Paul Morphy, the American genius and one of the greatest chess players ever lived. And Wilhelm Steinitz had the honour of being called the Austrian Morphy. From 1873 to 1882, Steinitz went on a historic 25-game winning streak, which is unusual at that time, where the results of chess could be chaotic at the most. In the early 1870s, Steinitz introduced a new style of play and is subsequently regarded as the father of positional chess. Perhaps the Russians would like to think Botvinnik might have been the father of positional chess, but no, we're going back to 1870 here, and this is where as a matter of fact, he looks a little bit like Ian Rogers. Does Wilhelm Steinitz. That's my little friend Grandmaster Ian Rogers from Australia. But he does look a little bit like him. Right. Now, if we scroll down a little bit here under the top chess players in the world, of Wilhelm Steinitz, we'll find that he entered the chess scene in the 1850s, and aggressive play was all the rage. Right, so he played in a romantic fashion full of gambits and sacrifices at first, but he later changed the landscape of chess forever when he revealed this new style of positional play. He defended his new positional ideas furiously, and they were eventually accepted by many other masters. This new positional style laid the groundwork for modern chess that we know today. Of course, today we have Layla, and we've got Stockfish, and the AI computers got a bit of the old Steinitz in them. At the same time, they've got a bit of the aggressive attacking style of the old masters. I'm going to start with this game here. We're on chess.com. We've got to thank chess.com and their profile of Wilhelm Steinitz as one of the greatest players that ever lived and the first world chess champion. And they've on their chess.com greatest players, the first game they talk about is Wilhelm Steinitz versus the great Adolf Anderssen. Now, Adolf Anderssen was something very special. As a matter of fact, I just happen to have, I thought I did, don't tell me it's gone. I did have a book on the greatest attacking games of Adolf Anderssen, but I must have returned it to my friend, otherwise I'd show you the book. But it's a fantastic book. And Adolf Anderssen, a very attacking player, is playing the black pieces against Wilhelm Steinitz. And we're just going to open the board up. Oh, I hope. No. Don't tell me. Don't do this to me. Right, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to, I've got the board here. I'm just going to go, is it this one? Flipboard, no. Share, go to analysis. And we're looking at the game Wilhelm Steinitz versus Adolf Anderssen. Okay, all right then. Now, this game was played in Vienna in 1873. As a matter of fact, on the 8th of November 1873 to be precise. And Wilhelm Steinitz opened up with d4. Now, when I talk about, people ask me, what sort of game should I play, John? And I say, well, you should play according to your personality. If you've got a very volatile personality and you like to really mix it, so to speak, well, then you might want to play e4, which is, according to Bobby Fischer and most exponents, the sharpest and best move on the board. However, there are lots and lots of complications that come, critical complications that come from e4. But however, if you want to be a positional player, and as I expressed earlier, Wilhelm Steinitz adopted this new positional style, then you would choose d4, right? And this is exactly what Wilhelm Steinitz has played in this game. It's a perfect example of Steinitz's positional approach. d5 was played, and for many years later in World Chess Championships, d4 and the response d5 were played by the great players that contested the World Championships. You'll see many of these examples of the Queen's Gambit. c4 was played. The whole idea of this opening is to try to exchange a side pawn or a wing pawn for a centre pawn. That is the c pawn for the d pawn. e6 is played. And we have the main line of the Queen's Gambit declined. Had you captured the pawn, it would have been the Queen's Gambit accepted. Knight c3 is played, and it's to develop a piece on the left-hand side of the board. Knights go on c3 and f3 predominantly. And the whole idea is to put pressure on, I'm showing you the arrows here, put pressure on the d5 square, right? And there's often a long-term idea that white adopts where we try to play against this bishop on c8 and try to get a positional advantage where the bishop can't develop quite easily. Knight f6 was played by Adolf Anderssen, and I'm sure Wilhelm Steinitz really recognised and had a lot of respect for the play of Adolf Anderssen, who was no easy chicken. Bishop g5 was played, and the whole idea here is to connect the castle and the queen on the queen's side, and to pin the knight against the queen, and to get rapid development with e3, and just complete your development in a very precise positional style. Bishop e7 was played, and it's considered that one of the best, or if not the best moves by the engine. And the whole idea here is black just is preparing to castle kingside and connect his castle and queen. White played e3, and now the bishop, f1, is protecting the pawn on c4, and we'll see how Adolf Anderssen replies and what ideas he comes up with. Mind you, just remember the game was played a long time ago before modern theory, so we are in a modern theoretical position that Boris Spassky, who played Bobby Fischer in the World Chess Championship, he himself likes this variation as white. So it's a great credit to Steinitz, the very first world champion. He's setting the bar for modern chess theory. Black castles, as we expected, and white plays knight to f3. So white's completing the development of his minor pieces, right? Now, ideally, if black were to play pawn takes c-pawn, the bishop could recapture, and white would have what we call perfect position. Now, so black does not want to capture that pawn. Let's see what he does. Well, he plays b6. Black, Adolf Anderssen, as good as he is, he recognised that we were, when I say we, I mean Wilhelm Steinitz and myself, were playing against the white squared bishop on c8. That's right. Now Adolf Anderssen's got an idea of playing bishop to b7, activating that bishop, or giving himself the option of bishop to a6, and that would put pressure on the c-pawn and relieve black of the problems that he has with this white squared bishop. Right, so here white played bishop to d3. This move actually helps. It actually helps black a little bit. When we talk about modern theory, we talk about tempos, very tiny little tempos that we understand, modern chess players understand. And after bishop d3, d takes c, right? So pawn takes pawn, gives black a little tempo. So after bishop retakes, then the bishop can comfortably or reasonably comfortably go to bishop to b7. At the time, these players wouldn't have known that. Bishop to b7 was played, so I thought pawn takes pawn was slightly better. However, I can't argue with Adolf Anderssen, one of the greatest attacking players of all time. Castles by white, and now you can see when you examine the board that the castles and queens, all the heavy major pieces at the back, they're all interconnected and they're working harmoniously together, right? And that's exactly what the players want. Knight b file to d7 was played by black. He chose not to play pawn takes pawn. So he decided, no, I won't do that. I won't give white the option. I'll let him worry about pawn takes pawn. Well, Steinitz is a positional player now, as we discussed earlier. And so he captures the pawn, right? And the whole idea is, if the pawn recaptures on d5, then the bishop still has the problems of its development, because there's a pawn on d5 just blocking its diagonal. So Adolf Anderssen does capture the pawn. So from Wilhelm Steinitz's new positional style, he's achieved all these goals. So let's see what he does now. Played rook to c1. I myself have had this position. That's right, I can't remember the exact game, but I can see that I would have had this position in a chess game for sure. Because it's typical me playing rook c1, just like Wilhelm Steinitz. Maybe I subconsciously watched some of his games. c5 was played, very ambitious move. Whole idea is to activate these pawns in the centre, and if the opportunity presents itself, then they could become quite dangerous to the white encampment, right? And so you just got to be very careful, because the more pawns that are facing each other with little minor captures and the like, the balance of power can shift from left to right very quickly. White chose pawn takes pawn. It's probably I'll be honest, it's probably the last move that I would have played in this position myself. And black recaptured with the pawn. Well, here, this is the problem. How do you follow up in this position? And what are your principal ideas? The only one I can think of in this position is, if I was to play white, I might choose bishop to f5. Now, whether that's good or not, I don't know, but I do tend to like the black position a little bit. I can see white's got some squares, but we'll just see what happens. Queen to a4 was played, and when queen a4 was played in this position, white could be threatening bishop to a6, which would be an exchange of the white bishop, the white bishop for the black white squared bishop. So the bishops are the same colour. However, it would this exchange, if black were to allow it, that would cause severe weakness to the D pawn in the middle of the board. Black's D pawn, pawn on D5. We're talking about this pawn here where the arrows, I'm pointing to it. So the whole idea is white wants to play bishop here. We're signalling that he wants to play bishop here. Now, how does black thwart that idea? Because it's a very strong idea. He played knight to e4. And frankly, to me, it does not look like a good move. It doesn't look like a good move at all. Anyway, we'll see what's played, but I'll tell you what, I'll go back, I'll put the knight back on f6, and I'll just show you, I thought the better move for black might have been knight to b6. Knight to b6. I thought knight b6 was an option. It overprotects the pawn on d5. However, he's played knight here. Now, but the technical problems with that is that black has to, I suppose he's trying to get some sort of activity. Is that off Anderson? But technical problems that I can see are that after bishop takes e7 and the queen recaptures, that bishop on e7 is one of white's strongest pieces, black's strongest pieces. It's also used to protect the pawn on c5. These two pawns could come under severe positional, like problems. Okay, so bishop takes e4 he's played. Well. He's played the move I didn't expect. Typical Steinitz. Genius that he is. Okay. Now remember, knight to b6 does attack this queen and protects the pawn here, but now you can't quite do it because a bishop takes bishop. So let's have a look and see what was played. So he does take a bishop. Oh, he took a pawn. So now after rook to d1. This is what I expected. I expected this move. And now there are real problems for black. Black's pieces are all on the back rank, bar his minor pieces, which are attacked. Rook takes d7 is a threat, major threat. Bishop takes bishop was played, and now knight takes. Okay, so the knight's recaptured. Now we have a position where the knight on d7 now is still attacked by the rook and queen. Okay, now yes, you can play knight to b6. However, there are severe problems after rook takes queen. The pawn on e4 is vulnerable, and the endgame would be pretty obviously strongly in favour of the white pieces. Our world chess champion, our first world chess champion, Wilhelm Steinitz, would have a major advantage. Played queen takes knight, and now it's white to move. Rook takes knight. In this position, when the smoke is cleared from the complications, white has control of the open d file. Really important. Lots of games are being won or lost with the control of the open d file. Now the bishop's attacked. Well, this is a problem. White played queen to b3. It's a double threat, right? We're threatening rook takes bishop, and we're threatening queen takes pawn check. It's a knockout blow. Bishop to c3 was c6 is played, and now queen takes pawn check. King moves to h8. Now, if the queen wasn't defending his pawn on g7, it'd be checkmate, wouldn't it? Okay, so it's now in this position, it's white to move. And one of the moves I like is rook to c7. That's one of the moves I like. And I think it's probably the best move. Let's see what he plays. We played h4. Well, I never would have expected that. What a strong move. What Wilhelm Steinitz, or the great, let's call him the great, what the great Wilhelm Steinitz has just pointed out is he's threatening to take our queen off. He's not worried about his rook on d7 because he knows with the all the experience that he's got is that this queen, if it's removed from that square, from the g5 square, it'll be checkmate if the queen takes the pawn. It'll be checkmate here. So Adolf Anderssen plays queen to g4. He's now attacking the castle 2 times, and he's also attacking the king in some ways. Right, so rook takes pawn is played. This is a brilliant move. Rook takes pawn. The rook is trapped in the corner. Now, the whole idea in this position that from Adolf Anderssen's point of view is he wanted to get the pawn on b2. That's his plan, but it doesn't work. Now let's see what happens. Rook takes rook is played. Queen takes rook, and now can he play rook takes b2? He does. He plays rook takes b2. Now, there's a problem with rook takes b2. And the problem with rook takes b2 is queen c7. That's right. So after rook takes b2, well, he's got to take that pawn. If he doesn't take that pawn, white would simply play b3 and just slowly win the game. It'd be just a pretty slow event. Anyway, we have more threats here, folks. Queen takes c5 threatens checkmate on f8. Let's see what Wilhelm Steinitz does. Queen takes c5. He found the best move. He's threatening checkmate and he's threatening the bishop. Well, queen to e6 is played. And now it's in this position. We do a pawn count. Excuse me. And why do you do a pawn count in this type of position, John? Well, pawns are the soul of the game, and black has got a weak back rank, and what else? White's got a weak back rank, and white's got 5 pawns as opposed to black's 3. And the pawn on e5 is, oh my God, it can't be played, can it? God, you can almost play knight takes e4. It's unbelievable. Let's see what he played. Rook to d1. Our world champion, our first world champion, Wilhelm Steinitz, has played rook to d1. He's threatening queen f8, and he's threatening rook to d8. h6 is played to give white a little bit of a cubby hole. So his king can get to h7 if he gets in check. Rook to d6, and white had a double threat. Talk about playing positionally. He grabbed the open file. He threatens rook to d8. h6 is the only move. And now rook to d6 is attacking the queen and the bishop. The bishop's attacked twice. And it looks fundamentally like he's going to lose a piece. There is one move to save the game. Now, what would that be? Well, it's probably queen to f7, threatening checkmate on f2. And that's the move he plays. Adolf Anderssen plays queen to f7, threatening checkmate in 2 moves. The knight moves back, and this is the key move to the position. Now the knight's moved back. The pawn on f2 is protected, and we can see that black's running short of moves. Queen takes bishop is still a threat. Knight takes rook is now a threat. Rook to e2 is played. Well, it's in this position. White played king to f1, attack the castle, and funnily enough, it's not funny, it's very sad, but after king to f1, genius move by the Wilhelm Steinitz, the world champion, the rook is trapped. That's right, the rook can't take the pawn with check because the knight will recapture. The rook can't go to d2 because of rook takes rook. The rook can't go to c2 because of queen takes rook. And the only move would possibly be rook takes a pawn. That'd be the only move. And surely after queen takes bishop, the game is over. The game is totally over. White has got too much material, and there is no attack by black. So that was the game, Wilhelm Steinitz, that he played against Adolf Anderssen, the great Adolf Anderssen. And Adolf Anderssen was a mighty player. So if you want to have a look at some really great attacking games, chess games, and you're a beginner or a middle-range player, and you couldn't do any worse than looking at the games of Adolf Anderssen. I'm with my good friend, Mr. Whittaker from the United States today. He's just done a boxing documentary, and now he's doing a documentary on the great Wilhelm Steinitz. I'm trying to help him out a little, I hope I've done him some justice. And would that be enough games for you, Mr. Whittaker? Or would you like to see one more game of the great Wilhelm Steinitz?
I think we have time for one more. That's great.
Okay, we can do this. Right. Now, that game was played on the 11th of August, 1873. And we have a photo here, which is good. Well, that's exactly what we want. We want a photo. We want to see what the great Wilhelm Steinitz looked like. There he is there as a young man. He's got a bit of a mustache and a beard, and he's all dressed up very nicely in his best suit, sitting on a very lovely ornate chair. And that photograph was taken in 1866, and the photo is courtesy of Wikipedia. Here we go, so we're not breaching any copyrights. And so there was a guy that was always a difficult player to play, and he had a difficult name, a scary name. His name was Blackburn. And Steinitz, he continued his match success in 1862 to 1863 by defeating Blackburn. Now, I'm pretty sure this is the guy they called the Black Death. That's how scary he was. They called Blackburn the Black Death. He was a top English master. In 1863, Steinitz defeated the English masters Deacon and Mongredian in matches. In 1864, he defeated another English master, Valentine Green. These matches led to Steinitz being recognised as one of the top players in the world. It's in 1866 he played the match with Adolf Anderssen. Anderssen was regarded as the top player in the world, as he won the prestigious London tournaments of 1851 and 1862. So if you want to go back and have a look a bit history of chess, one of the greatest tournaments ever played, it'd be the great London tournament of 1851 or 1862. They're recognised as one of the two strongest tournaments of the period. The only player who was considered stronger than Anderssen was Morphy. So Paul Morphy was around at this time. Remember I spoke earlier of Paul Morphy, the American genius? Dr. Morphy, he was a doctor. He retired because he wanted to look after his patients. So he was a very honourable man, and he obviously believed in helping people get better. What a great doctor. Only every doctor was like that, eh? He gave up his chess for his patients. But he retired in 1866, so Steinitz was definitely considered the underdog in this match, but he surprised the world when he defeated Anderssen by a score of 8-6. See, I did tell you Anderssen was pretty deadly. He did score 6 points. Anyway, after winning the match, Steinitz was viewed as the top player in the world. In the following game from the match, Anderssen conducts an attack reminiscent of a modern King's Indian defence, almost 90 years before the King's Indian defence was modernised and popularised, following the 1953 Zurich International Tournament. Now, if you want to go to my YouTube channel, you will see where I cover the 1953 Zurich International Chess Tournament and a lot of the players and some of the games. That's the FM John Curtis Chess channel on YouTube, and type in keywords like 1953 Zurich, Z-U-R-I-C-H, and it should come up. It's not a bad little video, if I do say so myself. So we're going to have a look at this game. We're going to go to the chess.com analysis board again, right, so we can watch this wonderful game of chess. So please be patient. Yes, you have a white screen. Shouldn't last too long. Aha, we've got it. And we've got Wilhelm Steinitz against the great Adolf Anderssen. Right, so this time Adolf Anderssen is playing the white pieces, and our world champion in focus, Wilhelm Steinitz, he's playing the black pieces. White played e4, the most attacking move on the board. e5 is played by Steinitz, knight to f3, knight to c6. Okay, so the knight goes on f3 to attack the e-pawn, the knight comes on c6 to defend it, and all the modern players, Magnus Carlsen, Fabio Caruana, and many of the other modern greats, they all play these very moves that we're looking at today, that were played by Steinitz and Anderssen. Bishop b5, Ruy Lopez is chosen. That's right. So Adolf Anderssen, you're going back a long time ago, and here he is, he's playing a Ruy Lopez. Knight to f6. It's the Berlin defence. That's exactly what Magnus Carlsen would play in this position. So I think my good friend Mr. Whittaker has chosen a very, very great world champion to be able to play the modern Berlin defence. So many 100 years ago or whatever. Oh my God, it's amazing, isn't it? d3 was played, and kudos to Adolf Anderssen. He's playing just as well. d6 is played. Now, this bishop takes c6 check. I don't think any of the modern masters would relieve the tension by playing bishop takes c6 check in this position. However, Adolf Anderssen was an attacking player. He must have had some ideas about the position that he wanted to test. Another move that could be played in this position would be c3. And that would be more modern today. c3 would be played with the idea of preserving the bishop so it can go back if it's attacked on a6. It can move back to a4 and back to bishop b3 or c2, and the game could continue. However, Steinitz would have been, I reckon he would have been so happy getting hold of the white squared bishop. Pawn takes bishop, and now I don't think black's got any problems at all in this position. Chess.com evaluation bar has said the position's equal. If you have a look at the bar on the side of the board, the evaluation bar, it's dead level. h3 is played. It seems to me to be a passive move. When we're talking about people like Ali Reza Firouzja and modern attacking style, after a move like h3 is played, modern chess tells us that it can be a strike area against white. If he plays an early h3, black can play h6, g4, maybe even g5, and get an attack on the king side if white castles king side. Because after all, he's made a little committal move, and it's not that good to do it. The engine says the position's still equal though. g6 is played. Knight to c3 by white. Bishop g7, black's preparing to castle. Castles by white. Castles by black. And now the engine's starting to think, oh, has black got a better position or not? And it's wavering. The AI computer at chess.com is wavering a little bit, only fractionally, for the black side. Bishop g5 was played, and now when this move is played, the engine's saying, no, black is better. h6 was played. And now white's got to make a decision. What does he do? Does he retreat his bishop or does he capture the knight? Well, I think retreating the bishop is probably better. I don't know. He does. He retreats the bishop. c5 was played. And the whole idea, Wilhelm Steinitz is playing c5. It's a positional move. And this is his style. He wants to control the d4 square. He says, I don't want you doing any play on the d4 square. Black is also looking at knight h5 and the move f4, f5, f4, trying to get an attack against this king side. Don't forget, I did tell you, this pawn that went to h3, right? He played that move, white played that move h3 on move 6, and it could be the nail in his coffin. So you say, oh, but he only played pawn to king rook 3 or pawn to h3, John. How can that have caused him to lose the game? Well, when I'm watching the high-level grandmasters like Pragnender, Alireza Firouzja, and Fabio, and when they're attacking, they get these insane attacks on the king side. It's only a little pawn move that can be your death knell. Rook to b1 was played. It seems to be a very passive move, and the evaluation bar at chess.com has said, I agree, John. Knight to e8 was played. Okay, so you say, oh, but Wilhelm Steinitz has moved backwards. He's got nearly every single piece on the back rank. Yes, but what else has got Wilhelm Steinitz got? Well, he's got personality. No. Apart from his personality, he's got spatial control. He's got the two raking bishops, and his rook on f8 is going to be activated along the f file very quickly. It's with this that Adolf Anderssen feels that he can't just stay sitting there twiddling his thumbs. He says, I'll play b4 and I'll try to get some play on the queen side. The pawn's captured, so Wilhelm Steinitz has eliminated his only weakness. It was his doubled c pawn. It's gone. Rook takes pawn. And we do have a symmetrical pawn structure to a degree. That is, the both A pawns are isolated. Perhaps black wants to, I don't know what he wants to do, but maybe he's got to do something. This f5 business is coming. c4, okay, so now c5 has been played. It attacks the castle. Puts a question to the castle. Where are you going with that? And also binds the d4 square again, right? So if white were able to play the move d4, he would have equality, right? But he can't play it. He's just been stopped. Position is equal. Okay. So c5 was played, and the position's equal here. After rook takes pawn, engines say position's equal. c5 is played, position still equal according to the evaluation bar. Rook to a4. That rook looks offside. It looks a little bit offside, but I think what Anderssen's trying to do is he's trying to play a move like Queen C1, sorry, attack this pawn, slip the queen over to A3 very quickly, put pressure on the A pawn. Let's see how the game goes. Bishop to D7. You think Adolf Anderssen would be very happy with this type of position? Rook to A3. Now this rook is on a very poor square. I think Adolf Anderson will have to fix that problem. F5, here it comes. This is the whole purpose of the move. To swing these pawns against this kingside. Don't forget we spoke earlier about this move that was played on h6, h3. And no, I hadn't seen the game earlier. Queen to b1 was played. And now king h8. Let's revise that move. So in this position, before king h8, the evaluation bar says advantage to black. Black played king h8. Maybe in some variations he doesn't like the queen check. Queen to b7 was played, threatening rook takes a7. a5 is played, keeping the rook on a3 in a very poor position. Right? It is, it's in a poor position. Rook to b1 was played, and Adolf Anderson is taking on our illustrious Wilhelm Steinitz. He's taking him on, he's controlling the open file, and he's saying, well, yes, you've got play on the king side, but if you don't win on the king side, your attack doesn't come through, I'm going to start grinding you on the queen side and causing you all sorts of problems. And that's the idea. Now, Steinitz finds a great move. He really does. Wilhelm Steinitz finds a great move. a5. This really seals the knight in, the castle in, sorry, on a3. It can't move anywhere. It's got nowhere to go. So effectively, in this position, White's almost playing a piece down. Queen to d5 was played. He centralised his queen. And now queen to c8. Now the only thing we could think of here is black wants to trap the queen. Look at this. If you could play bishop, bishop here looks good too. All these moves look good. Bishop to e6 is a threat. Bishop c6 is a threat. Pawn takes pawn is a threat, possibly. Rook to b6 by Adolf Anderson, and he's putting pressure on the d pawn. Maybe he's thinking the only way I can break through is I might have to sacrifice the exchange against Wilhelm Steinitz, try to make him feel a bit uncomfortable. He's still got trouble with his castle trapped on a3 though, where I'm indicating with the arrows. Rook a7 is played by Wilhelm Steinitz. Why rook a7? Well, it's just a good move. It interconnects the pieces, and he could be looking at rook on the a file to f7 with the two castles on the f file towering down against the king. King h2. Perhaps, in his wisdom, Adolf Anderson is scared of this upcoming attack. f4, here it comes. Bishop to d2. The bishop's got no play now. Remember, the d4 square has been secured. And remember, I did also talk about the move h3 that was played on move 6. And I said this could be the defining moment of the whole game. And it can be too. g5, here it comes. Black is actually threatening to play g4. g4 attacking the white king position, and there are no pieces near the king. If we draw a little box around these squares here, we can see that there's hardly any pieces, any material defending the king. There's only a knight. The knight's only worth 3 points for you people that like to count your points of value on in your chess positions. And white's got a queen and a bishop attacking the king side. That's a total of 12 points. Queen's worth 9, not Queen's worth 9, and the bishop's worth 3. 9 and 3 is 12 points. Yes, I'm right. Queen to c4 was played. The evaluation bar now says there's a marked advantage for black in this position. Queen to d8 is played, attacking the rook on the b6 square, which is slightly uncomfortable. The rook returns. He's returning to the scene of his own crimes, because what he really wants to do now is play rook to b1. He wants to play rook to h1, I believe, so that he can somehow defend his king position. Knight to f6 is played, and now black has just got every piece working beautifully together. I'm surprised that the evaluation bar at chess.com is not giving our world champion Wilhelm Steinitz full recognition for the dominance of his position. This is dominating position. Positionally crushing. King to g1 was played, and now knight to h7. Now this is a deep move. I've got to try to work out why it was played. I can see why. He doesn't want to swap the knights on d4, and he wants to simply play h5 and g4. The white king senses the danger, starts running away, so he plays king to f1. So this king has gone to h2, back to here and over to here. He's played about 3 king moves as white, so he senses the danger, himself being a great attacking player in Adolf Anderssen. Here it comes, h4. Knight goes back to g1. This is desperation. Here comes g4. And what did I tell you about that pawn that moved there on move 6? That pawn on h3? Well, it's attacked 3 times. Well, will be. Pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. And now these 2 pawns are looming, and the pieces are looming all over the white position. And black is being choked to death still on the queen side with his castle trapped on a3. Gives Wilhelm Steinitz every opportunity to just keep coming. Here he comes, played f3, trying to get some sort of play, and queen to h4 is played, a direct attack on the king. He's threatening g3 and queen to h such and such. Queen to h8 possibly, and knight to g5. These are all possibilities. Or he can just play knight to g5, and that's why he probably played knight f6 to h7. He wants to play knight to g5, put further pressure on the f3 square. Let's have a look. Knight moves back. Here it comes. Knight g5. So now we can see all the pieces are working harmoniously together. Bishop to... Look at him, will you? Bishop to e1. He's attacking the queen. I would have done the same thing if my name was Adolf Anderssen. I would have done the same thing. I would have been desperate to chase that queen away. Houston, we have a problem. The queen's moved closer. d4 is played. This is desperation. The d4 move has been played, and it's a direct. He wants to clear the rook to hold the f3 pawn. It's an intelligent idea from Adolf Anderssen. So he's actually, at first you say, he sacrificed the pawn. But what he's really doing is he's trying to activate his rook at any costs to get some play. And even if he's got to capture with the rook, it's better than the rook not working and being trapped on a3. So that's his plan. It was quite a clever little plan, actually, even though it loses material. The evaluation bar says the game's over. It does. There's only that much area of white and that much area of black shown on the chess.com evaluation bar, saying Wilhelm Steinitz has got this game in the bag. Pawn takes f3 was played. Pawn takes f3 was played. And now, knight to... This is a terrible move. Oh, this is cruel. This is absolutely cruel. Knight to h3 is played, threatening queen takes knight check. Okay. The bishop went to f2. He says, oh, no, I'm not dead yet. But unfortunately, Wilhelm Steinitz has other ideas. He takes the knight. The pawn took the pawn. He didn't even take the knight. He thought, well, I'll play another move. I'll do something else. Queen to h3 check is played. Now, that you could say, well, oh, but John, he can play king takes knight. Well, there's a problem with king takes knight, and that is rook to g8, right? Rook to g8. It'd be a big discovered check down to the king. So he moved to e1. Being the great attacking player that he is himself, he says, I better make a run for it. Knight takes f3 check, and black is just cleaning up. Knight takes f3 check. Well, not much you can do here. Rook takes knight, queen takes rook, because he knew his castle was never working. And now the position's totally dominated. We can see checkmates coming everywhere. Knight to c3, trying to get some activity, desperately trying to get some activity. If we have a look at the amount of pieces that both players have got in this position, White's got a queen, the castle, and two knights, right? Let's add up the points. Though the position certainly takes precedence over the value of the points in the position. White's got two castles, two bishops, that's 10, 16, and one queen makes it 26. White's got 15 and 6, 21. So in material, black's got 5 extra points of material. He's also got heavy material. Right, so a move like rook f6, rook here, rook checks, and this bishop would fall. Pawn takes pawn is played. Bishop takes pawn, attacking two castles. This guy, Adolf Andersen, won't lie down. He's fighting. Now, I don't know whether at this stage there was some time scramble. I wouldn't know, because we haven't got the data there. But maybe, perhaps, black was short of time. Rook pins the bishop. Okay, so now we have a problem. The rook's attacking the bishop. It's pinned. The knight moves forwards. He says, my name is Adolf Andersen. I'm an attacking chess player, and I'm going to attack you. Rook takes bishop is played, and now the problem. What's the problem? Well, after queen takes rook, queen takes pawn check. And now, as the evaluation bar still shows just only a little bit of hope for white, we now have black two central pass connected pawns coming down the middle towards the white king. The white king standing alone, and it looks really, really bad. King went to f2. Rook to c8. Now we have a double attack on the c2 pawn. This is curtains. Knight to c7. Desperation. He's just trying to stop a checkmating attack. Queen to e6 check, and this is the winning move, because it eliminates all the pieces. The queen's attacked, the king's attacked with check, so you've got to take the queen, and when the pawn recaptures, your knight falls, and you're going to be 2 bishops down, right? So black's going to have 2 extra bishops, and that'll be a win. And that's where the great Adolf Anderssen resigned. He says, "Oh, I don't like this game anymore." And Wilhelm Steinitz was crowned the victor of that particular game. The Roy Lopez, and I think the most outstanding thing about the game was the fact that it was a Berlin opening, and a lot of the moves were the same types of moves as I said earlier, that Alireza Firouzja and Carlsen, they all play those sort of ideas today. So it just goes to show you, Wilhelm Steinitz, first world champion and first well-deserved world champion too. There we go. And with that, I'm going to finish my little... Oh no, I'll just go down a little bit further. Wait a minute. There might be something else to be said here about Mr. Steinitz. Oh, here's a picture of Wilhelm Steinitz in the 1870s, courtesy of Wikipedia. I'll read you a little bit about Steinitz here. In 1866, it's called, the heading is top player in the world. In 1866, Steinitz defeated Bird in a match. He did not play another serious match until 1872, which is a long time. 6 years in chess, not playing a serious match is a long time. And then he'd face Johannes Zukertort. Now, if you look up Zukertort, you'll find there's the Zukertort opening, the Zukertort chess opening, that's right. At this time, just like we've got the Steinitz variation with the Roy Lopez and stuff like that, well, we've got the Zukertort opening. So in this period of chess development by these great players, they were developing the modern theory that would be played for many years to come. And so, as such, they would get the chess openings named after them. Johannes Zukertort was coming off a convincing match victory against Adolf Anderssen in 1871 and would be Steinitz's eventual challenger for the first official world championship 14 years later. Now, Steinitz defeated Zukertort in the 1872 match by a score of 9-3. That's quite convincing, isn't it? There were 7 wins, 4 draws, and only 1 loss. So the win ratio was 7-1. So we'd have to say that, based on those statistics, that Steinitz was a much better player than his opponent. And it'd be the last time that Steinitz would use the old style of aggressive tactics and romantic sacrifices. In 1873, Steinitz competed in the Vienna tournament and displayed his new positional ideas. He tied for first with Blackburn. Remember, Blackburn was the Black Death. I love that. What a name. You walk around, they used to call him Blackburn the Black Death. They call me the magician. In Sydney, they used to call me Killer Curtis. I won't tell you why. Anyway, he tied for first with Blackburn ahead of Anderssen, Rosenthal, Paulsen and Bird. So Paulsen was playing at the time and Rosenthal. Bird would have invented the Bird's opening, wouldn't he, right? So Steinitz defeated Blackburn in the playoff to take the first place prize. So there it was a playoff in the tournament, the Vienna tournament. It was in this tournament Steinitz won 14 games in a row, not 10 or 11 or 12 or 13. No, he won 14 games in a row. And these 14 games would be the beginning of his 25-game winning streak that we mentioned earlier. The winning streak would extend from the 1873 Vienna tournament through the first 2 rounds of the 1882 Vienna tournament. Okay. So it's nearly 9 years. Wow, it's a long time, isn't it? After the Vienna tournament in 1873, Steinitz withdrew from the tournament play until 1882. So he didn't play for 9 years. He did defeat Blackburn in the match in 7-0 in 1876, but besides this, he was focused far more on writing about chess than playing in it. So there you go. So obviously Steinitz was a great chess journalist. And so if you want to have a look at Steinitz's writings, you can do some research on those and look them up. Steinitz became a chess journalist for London's leading sports magazine at the time. And while writing for this magazine, he and Zukertort had many debates in their respective writing positions. Zukertort wrote for his self-published chess magazine. There we go. I spoke earlier of Grandmaster Ian Rogers, he himself a chess journalist. He suffered ill health as a chess grandmaster and just floated away to chess journalism, where he's very successful. Writes for the Sydney Morning Herald. Steinitz come back at the end of tournament 1882 was successful. Surprise, surprise. He shared his first place with Winawer. Now, when we talk about him sharing his first place with Winawer, we always spoke of the players and how the variations of chess were named after them. Well, Winawer is a variation of the French defence. It's called the Winawer variation, and they would have been named after Winawer. And anyway, Steinitz was ahead of Mason, Zukertort, Blackburn, Paulson and Chigorin. Now, you know the great Chigorin, right? He was a great chess player of the period. And in chess, we have Chigorin, we have the Chigorin variation. So all these players had the different chess variations named after them. They were creating history as they were going along. In late 1882, Steinitz travelled to the United States where he defeated Selman in 2 matches and defeated the Cuban champion Golmeo in 1883. So he travelled, he was a chess journalist, he was a great world champion, and he travelled to show his wares, to show just how good he really was, and to create his legacy for future generations. He returned to London for the 1883 tournament, where he finished in 2nd place behind Zukertort. After his long absence from international competitions and Zukertort's win at the London 1883 tournament, it was suggested that Zukertort was now the world's strongest player. Steinitz moved to the United States, where he would spend the rest of his life after the London tournament in 1883, but his debates with Zukertort and others in magazines and journals continued. And after lengthy negotiations, Steinitz and Zukertort agreed to terms for a match. And the Steinitz-Zukertort match of 1886 will be the first to decide who's the best, an official world champion. There's a photograph here that I'm showing, and you can see a picture of Steinitz and Zukertort there. And the format for the match would be the first to get 10 wins. Steinitz had a terrible start to the match, and after 5 games, Zukertort led by a score of 4-1. Then the match had a complete reversal as Steinitz mounted a comeback for the ages. The final score was 12.5, 7.5. There we go, 12.5, 7.5. That's almost the same score that Mikhail Tal had over Botvinnik in 1961, I think. Okay. The results of the match put an end to any debate regarding who the best player was, and Steinitz was crowned the very, very first official world chess champion. There we go. So we hope you've enjoyed this series. I'm going to show you one more photograph here. It appeared that, they say here, it appeared that nobody on the planet could beat Steinitz, and his undefeated match record achieved 30-year mark, an almost unbelievable feat. But in 1894, a newcomer who was relatively untested in match play sent Steinitz a challenge. His name was Emanuel Lasker. That's right, Emanuel Lasker. And Emanuel Lasker, he himself started writing his theoretical notes on chess and his book, and he hadn't played Chigorin or Tarrasch, the number 2 and number 3 players. Should be noted that Tarrasch we're talking about Dr. Tarrasch here. It should be noted, and he himself was a good theoretician, Dr. Siegberg Tarrasch, I think he was German, had declined a match invitation from both Lasker and Steinitz in the early 1890s. And there we have all the gentlemen standing around the table, and we have 2 players sitting down playing chess. Steinitz is seated on the right, and they're at the New Orleans Chess Club, right, in 1883. There's Theodore Lilienthal. The chess world felt that Lasker stood little or no chance of defeating Steinitz. Steinitz was on record as saying that he would win without a doubt. Then the young Lasker performed what seemed to be a miracle as he defeated Steinitz in the 1894 World Championship match by a convincing score of 12-6. 10 wins, 5 losses and 4 draws. Not only Steinitz's first match loss ever, but it ended his 32-year undefeated match streak while simultaneously removing a championship crown from his head. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes. All world champions are eventually replaced by another world chess champion. I'm going to leave that. I say Steinitz's legacy is enormous. 32 years of undefeated match play is staggering. Right? His historic 25-game winning streak from 1873 to 1882 is another mind-bending accomplishment. Most people don't believe that it's fair to compare his winning streak to Bobby Fischer's 20-game winning streak from 70 to 71. There we go. At any rate, Steinitz's winning streak is beyond impressive. There he is. That's his Wilhelm Steinitz Memorial plaque in Prague. So if you are travelling to Prague or if you are in Prague, certainly you might want to check out Steinitz Memorial plaque in Prague. And it's got a picture of Steinitz there with the crown, with the chess crown. Not like my chess crown. But in 1836, it's got Praha, 1900, New York. And it's got PRVNF, Mr. Zvita Vysaku, which I think just means pretty good chess player. Sorry about that. I can't read the language. Capablanca, who was the 3rd world champion, he summarised Steinitz best, they say. It was Steinitz who was the first to establish the basic principles of general chess strategy. He was a pioneer and one of the most profound researchers into the truth of the game. So Bobby Fischer, always looking for the truth. Greatest player that ever lived. So Capablanca, he immortalised this great Wilhelm Steinitz, saying he was a truth teller. He wanted to look into the truth of the game and find out the core ideas of everything and map them out in his writings and his journalism for future generations. Okay? So that is all, folks, as Bugs Bunny used to say. What do you reckon, Mr. Whittaker? I think we've done enough. What I'm going to do is I'm going to end this stream. And I'm going to thank Mr. Whittaker for inviting me to come along with him and share the immortality of Wilhelm Steinitz. I'm going to